Thank you for attending. I'm Todd. I'm the zoning chair, probably my last zoning meeting. Tonight's agenda is about 4705 Ridge, which is a series of use refusals. We have two quick updates, and the first is on Chuck's Garage, which is the Midvale Avenue project. Many of you will recall the last meeting, the gentleman has proposed an air bridge over to parking lots on Calumet Street. And he has since heard that the neighborhood, generally speaking, and also the RCO, or at least the Calumet near neighbors, are doing a sort of a petition of sorts. We've heard sort of, pretty firmly from a number of near neighbors that they're not interested in the 22 parking spots up on Calumet in support of the Chuck's Garage redevelopment. I relayed that to him because we thought it was the right thing to do, because he's either under agreement with the properties or is considering moving forward with buying them. And we wanted him to know that if he were to seek a variance for parking up on Calumet, it would probably not be supported by the RCO. He told me that he was rethinking his plans and was looking at a slightly smaller unit count, 24 to 26 units, and on-site parking of 12 units, which is obviously less than he had proposed on Calumet, but I would personally consider that to be a pretty great win, given how strongly people on Calumet and vicinity feel opposed to parking up there. And again, nothing's happened. His variance hasn't been triggered, but we expect to hear from him again this fall, and I think he's headed towards what seems like a pretty good compromise in the scheme of things. The next update, my colleague Hillary, who has actually been nominated to be the new chair, is going to make about the Scotts Lane CDR. Hillary, please.
Okay, let's go for it. Those who haven't met me, my name is Hillary Langer, and Todd has made the brave move of persuading me to step in his shoes, which feel a little nervous about right now, because it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of work, and I know Todd has given over a lot of time in the last few years to this, so I know we all appreciate that. So we'll see how I do in the next year or so, or more. But yeah, right now I would just like to report on the Civic Design Review meeting that I attended virtually for the 3449 Scotts Lane project. It was reviewed, we had a slate of comments for it. There were quite a few comments by the representatives from city planning, but just in a very high level. They were asked to come back for a second review with a number of requests to enhancements. They're not obligated to incorporate them, but I can give you the general view of what was said. Basically we transitioned from townhomes to apartment buildings. So we go from whatever it was, I can't remember, 39 townhomes to 221 units, a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units with some studios put in there. The zoning was changed from residential to RM1, I believe is the tag on it. So we go from however many people fit in 39 townhomes to however many people fit in 221 units. So we are looking at about probably 3 times the amount of people. There's 200 parking spaces. So the plan that was presented maintained the drive-through road through to Henry Avenue and 5 parking spaces for neighboring homes that was part of the approval on the previous project. What is not included really are good connections into the neighborhood, and this point was made by us, myself, and city planning. There's some sidewalk repair on either side as you enter and leave the project on Scott's Lane. But that leaves, there's no sidewalk across the street. There's no sidewalk connecting up to Indian Queen Lane. And there are no good connections to public transportation by foot. The pathway through McDevitt is simply not feasible. That place is run down and needs a lot of work. So a big part of the conversation was about connections, sidewalk. And just to let you know, I did initiate a conversation with Linda Norris. There is a closed pathway and road right across Roosevelt Boulevard. It's called Crescent Street, but it actually connects Scott's Lane to the bottom of Crawford Street. You can enter it, but you wouldn't want to walk through it because you'll just get stung by poison ivy. So I do want to pursue that connection because that is a no-brainer connection through the Scepter for several hundred residents in the apartments a day. A lot of the, when city planning reviewed the project, they were concerned about the potentially poor quality of the landscape spaces. They said, look, you know, you have landscape sidewalks and areas which are looking right into covered parking spaces. And they did not feel the buffer alongside Roosevelt Boulevard was sufficient. So kind of the dominoes started to tumble at that point, and one of the city planning representatives started talking about, well, you know, perhaps you should bring down some of the apartments to ground level, improve some of the ground level circulation. Perhaps you should like completely reconfigure your entire plan and site, which I thought was, you know, personally a little unproductive, and I would not expect them to respond to all those comments. It did produce a comment from the developer, Stams, like, well, you know, we were stuck with this side road coming through the apartments. And, you know, we can only make that so wide, and we can't increase the landscape buffer in that. So he, you know, became rather, I felt a little bit kind of resentful of the process. So they're coming back in the October meeting, so I think it remains to be seen what they come back with. But I think the important things is that they keep the road to avoid the congestion on Scott's Lane going through to Henry. They keep the 5 parking spaces. They do more connections through to down to Sherman Mills, up over the boulevard, improve connections through the regional rail. Because right now it's just unfair to ask the residents of that development to kind of take their life in hands and just walk out in a roadway which doesn't have a single sidewalk on it presently. There's a lot of other points made, but I don't want to take up too much time here unless anyone has any other questions or something they want to hear about.
Hey, Hillary, what's the date of the next CDR meeting? Are you aware yet?
I think it's, I looked quickly today, I believe it's October 8th, but I'd need to double check that.
Great. Okay, thanks. Thanks for the summary, and appreciate you making moves.
Okay.